What is going on, YouTube? Check it out. We just got back from North Seattle and you guys are gonna love this thing, man. I got another CRV. Yes, I know I should just probably make this into a CRV channel, but check it out. Here it is. So this one's silver. She looks all original. It's got 166,000 miles on it only. I had to push it off the trailer because it doesn't start, so I put a jump box on it and I cranked it. It sounds like it has a broken timing belt, guys, but this thing is pretty dang clean. I mean, the interior's, I think this is an aftermarket seat cover on these things. I mean, they look kind of loose on there, but they look really good. So, but yeah, guys, I mean, other than that, I think it just has a little bit of a scuff here. But other than that, the body looks really straight on it. And you know, this thing's probably gonna fly off the lot right now because it is getting closer to winter. We're in November now, so people are looking for all-wheel drive winter vehicles, you know, something in the budget, and this one fits them all most of the time, you know. So I love CRVs. I sell a ton of them, guys, but let's go ahead and see what's wrong with this thing. Okay, so we got our jump box on there. Let's go ahead and give this thing a crank. So we got nothing. So I don't know if you guys can hear it real well, but it cranks really fast. It's kind of choo 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 choo. Doesn't sound like it has any compression. And another thing here is we have no RPMs. So what that kind of tells me, guys, is that our distributor is probably not spinning, so it's not getting the signal to the crank sensor, which is in the distributor on this one. So most likely this thing has a broken timing belt, but I'm gonna go ahead and zip off this timing cover anyways, or valve cover anyways, just so we can take a look in there. So let me get started on that and I'll get back to you guys. Okay, so we just got that timing cover off, or valve cover off, and check that out, guys. See how loose that belt is? Yep, see, there she is. See, so that's a broken timing belt for sure. So there it is, guys. See, just came right out. So hopefully this thing doesn't have any bent valves. I'm gonna go ahead and slap a new timing belt on it, just the belt, just throw it on and see if it starts, guys. There's kind of like a 50-50 chance that these B20s don't hit. Most of the time they do, but you get lucky every once in a while and they don't bend any of the valves, and you can just put a belt on there and they start right up. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and if we need to get a cylinder head, I'll run to the junkyard and get one real quick, see how quick we can fix this thing, guys. So let's get started, man. Okay, so we just got back from the parts store. I got this timing belt here, just the belt, guys. I think it was 40 bucks through my shop account. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on this. It's pretty simple. You just got to take off all the belts here. So you got a power steering belt, an AC belt, and then an alternator belt on the back. So I'll show you guys how to do that, and then we're gonna take that crank pulley off and get these covers off so we can see everything. We'll line everything back up, and then I'm just gonna try and start it once we get the belt on. So let's get started on all this. I'm gonna start by taking off this power steering belt here. Looks like it's just a 12mm on top, a 12mm on the bottom. Now you should be able to get this belt off and move it out of the way. Okay, so once you get your power steering pump loose from the bracket, you can just pull it up and move it up and out of the way over here onto the top of the engine. So then it gives you access here to the tensioner on your AC belt, which is actually this bolt here and this one here. So you're gonna have to loosen that 12mm and then just run this 8mm out, and you're also gonna have to loosen this, I think it's a 12 or a 14 here. So let's get started on that. And then that belt, actually we can take this power steering belt out, and the AC belt actually just stays on the AC compressor. So third belt is going to be our alternator belt. This one is a little more difficult. You got to get it from the top and the bottom. So you got one 14mm nut here, right underneath it. You just got to loosen it. You don't got to take it out completely. Just loosen it. And then if you come around to the top here, move your power steering pump out of the way. Back down probably. You got your second bolt right here somewhere. Right there. So you're going to want to loosen that 12mm bolt and the 14mm bolt. And then you should be able to pull that alternator forward and that belt will come right off. Okay, so a lot of people complain about the hardest part on changing a timing belt on a Honda is removing this crank bolt. So when I first started working on cars, yeah, that thing is a pain. You can't get it out with much air impacts unless you have a really good one. But I've gone to all electric, and if you guys don't have one of these, it's a Milwaukee brushless impact. Can't even see the part number on it anymore, but these things, man, they zip these crank bolts out like nothing. So I mean, I haven't tried this at all. Let's just give it a whack. See, that's simple, guys. So you know, if you want to do this professionally, or if you just want to do it at home, I mean, I would recommend just keeping this. This thing takes off lug nuts and everything. So there's my little spiel on Milwaukee tools. I think they're freaking awesome. I got all of them, but that made that, you know, 10-15 minute job, you know, 30 seconds. So let's get that pulley off. You just kind of wiggle this crank pulley out of here and it should come off. If all goes well, if it doesn't hit the AC tensioner. There you go. And you guys make sure when you pull that thing off, do not lose this little key. So you definitely have to put that thing back in the crank when you put this thing back together. It has a little slot there, so try not to lose that thing. They're like 15 bucks if you want to buy them from Honda. But next step is going to be getting all of our plastic covers off. So they have 10mm bolts going all the way around, and I think our top one here just has 2 in the center. So looks like one right there and one over here. So we'll go ahead and get those things off, and that should give us access to our timing belt, guys. Okay guys, so I don't know if you could tell by the clip there, but there is 2 bolts here in the upper cover, and then that thing just comes straight out the top. And then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts on the bottom cover. So this one I was able to get to the top. It's under the motor mount, so it's kind of a pain, but this one is actually the hardest one to get out because it's all the way in the back corner right next to the alternator. But these 3 are pretty simple to get out. So get those 5 bolts out, and this comes out the bottom of the car. So that's it. It's pretty simple to get to your timing belt, guys. See, so obviously we don't have one because ours broke over there. I pulled it out earlier, but now we just got to turn these cam gears slowly and make sure we're not binding up or on anything. But right now you can see they're pointing down, and right there it says up. So we got to get these 180, and then we got to line up our crank. And next step is going to be loosening this motor mount, getting it off so we can get our new timing belt in. Okay guys, so I'm just using the bolt. It's a 12mm to spin these cams around. And I don't know, a lot of people don't know that on these cams here, and you really can't see it, there's actually a hole right there. So and that hole has to line up with this top hole here. So that also lines up our up mark, and it kind of gets us close, so when we're ready to put our timing belt on, it'll be pretty close. So you just want to spin these real slow, make sure they're not getting real stiff or hard, and then you just line up that hole as close as possible, something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and spin over this other side here. There we go. So like I said, just take your time, spin it nice and slow. If it gets hard, you might want to back off and then spin the crank a little bit, just so that your valves don't get hit or bend right now. So you can see that little hole again. It's right there. and that lined up somewhat. So that should be close enough on our cams so we can put our belt on. I'm gonna go ahead and line up the crank down on the bottom here, and then we'll take off our motor mount and slide our belt in. Okay, so to put your belt on, you're gonna want to support the engine with something. I got my jack here with the board under the oil pan, and you just want that so that when you take this motor mount off here, grab my impact. When you take this motor mount off here, it doesn't quite fall down all the way. So let's go ahead and take these off. That one's already loose. See if we can get the starter one on. There it goes. So we got those 3 bolts off. Just lift that up. See, so your motor mount just comes right off like that. Slide your belt in. Just like that. Grab your nuts again. And you just put your motor mount right back on, guys. Simple as that, guys. Okay, so we got our motor mount back on there, guys. Let's go ahead and when you start this thing, you're gonna want to start from the crank, come up to this cam here, and you're gonna want to go to the next cam. Make sure these two are on time when you're pulling that belt around, and make sure there's no slack on this side of the belt. So once you get that all on, you go around the water pump and put your tensioner on. So that's the order you want to go. And like I said, when you're doing this side here, you want to make sure there's no slack on this side, because if there's any slack, it's going to throw this cam off, you know, a tooth or two. So I'm going to go ahead and slap this thing on, and I'll let you know, I'll show you what it looks like once it's all done. Okay, so we got our timing belt on. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the bottom here. I'll show you guys. So I highlighted everything in red so you can see our marks line up. So there's a red line, or there's a line here on our crank pulley, and there's a little arrow back there on our oil pump. So you got to make sure those are lined up pretty straight like that. So, and then you don't want any tension on this side of the belt, or any slack, sorry. So you come up around and you pull this as tight as you can. Sometimes I find it easier to roll this cam gear back just a hair, put the belt on, and then tighten it with the wrench here, so that way you get all the slack out of that side. So you don't want no slack in this side. But your next mark is going to be this one here. Should be somewhat level with the top of the head. And if you look right in the middle, you got 2 of them, and those should be pretty level. So you can see they all kind of go straight across right there all the way to that outside one. I don't know if you can see that one back there, but and also we got a little marker here, it says up. So we got to make sure that's pointing up, and there's one down there as well, says up. So, and an easy indicator as well, like I said earlier, our holes on these cam gears are lined up. So you can see the hole underneath there. You can't really see it in the camera too well, but if you look straight down, it's lined straight up, and that one as well. So that means our little old Honda engine is on time. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to zip the crank pulley back in there, just put that one on, and we're going to go ahead and try and start this thing just like that. So I'll just slap the valve cover back on, put the distributor wires back in, and then I'm going to crank it and see if it starts, guys. If it starts, great, we're going to put it back together, send it a detail. If it doesn't start, we're going to keep on going. We might have to pull this head off. So let's go, guys. Okay, so as you can see, I just put the valve cover back on. I don't even have the bolts in. I just want to see if this thing's going to start, guys. So I just put that on, put the spark plugs back and the spark plug wires, and we just got our timing belt open there. We didn't put any of the covers, any of the belts back on. So, oh, and your crank pulley, you got to make sure that's on, or else the belt will fling off and you might break your valves if they aren't. But let's go ahead and give this thing a try, guys. Let me turn my jump box on. Sounds like we're getting fuel, and hopefully this thing fires up. Come on, give it a whirl, guys. Okay, guys. Oh, she purrs like a kitten. That sounds good, guys. So you can hear that little noise that... So that noise is just the AC pulley hitting down there on the crank pulley. I've done this quite a bit of time, so I already knew what it was, but man, she's purring like a kitten, guys. So looks like this thing just needed a timing belt. So let's go ahead and put it back together and we'll go from there. So you guys seen it's fired right up. She's running. So now pretty much we're just gonna do everything in reverse order. We're gonna start by putting our covers back on, then your alternator belt, then your AC belt, then your power steering belt. Put your valve cover back on and you should be all done, guys. So let me go ahead and zip all that back together. I'm probably gonna put you guys on a little time lapse. So I just want to get this thing knocked out. It goes back together the same way it came apart, except you just gotta tension your belts. So let's get to it. Okay, so we got her all back together. Put our intake, our valve cover, all of our belts back on, and our tire, and torqued it. So she's good to go, guys. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Let's see what she does. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and try and give this thing a shot here. See if she starts up. She made a little bit of a squeak and she's got a little bit of a tick, but maybe it'll smooth out here with a little bit of a running, huh? Well, she's running, guys. So it sounds pretty good. It just has a little bit of a tick. So it almost sounds like it's coming from the timing belt. I might take that cover back off and see what's going on in there, guys. All right, guys. So I figured out our problem. Not too proud of it, but we all make mistakes. I left the bottom bolts loose. So I left this one here and that one there loose on the cover. So you can see this one's still in there, but it is definitely loose. And that's where we were getting our rattle. Every time the crank pulley was coming around, it was hitting the head of the bolt and giving it a little scrape. So that's kind of where it sounded like a rattle, but I guess it was more of a squeak, huh? But and you can see didn't really do much to the balancer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten the bolts, put it back together, and hopefully we'll be done with this thing, guys. Okay, so I got it all back together. I'm thinking those two bolts are going to hopefully fix our problem here. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up, and hopefully she purrs like a kitten, guys. So there we go. Dang, there we go, guys. So no more rattle, no more funny noise, and she's purring like a kitten, man. This thing is still. It doesn't shake, doesn't misfire. It sounds real good. So I did just leave those two bolts on the bottom of the timing cover loose. I mean, we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, guys. But let's go ahead and take this thing for a test drive. Hopefully she's going to run and drive good. These things are notorious for bad transmissions. So, I mean, we got our engine side done. It revs right up. Let's go ahead and drive it, guys. Alright, guys, I just got back from Honda right now. They unlocked my radio, so sound's working. Check that out. We got radio. Don't want to play too much music in the background, right? But anyways, yeah, and we're on the highway right now. She runs real smooth. Only thing I can see is the alignment is off just a hair. It's kind of tilted a little bit to the left, so I might take her to go get an alignment. But other than that, guys, everything seems to be working great. So this thing was really well taken care of. The interior is pretty clean. So hopefully I just got to send this thing to detail, get an alignment done, and she'll be on the lot ready to sell, guys. Okay guys, I know it's a little bit dark out here, but we just got back from our test drive, and man, she's running right now. You can't even hear it running. So things running and driving great. It might need an alignment. The steering wheel was a little bit off, so I'll probably take it to a tire shop, get that done. But other than that, man, I think this thing's ready to go. I'm gonna send it to detail, put her on the lot. So remember, we're gonna make a decent amount of profit on this one. It had a broken timing belt, didn't start, so it was an easy fix. We got it all done in one day, and you guys can do it too. So remember, stay up, hustle hard.